Fit, active, healthy, happy, enjoying the prime of your life. Looking out for your health and wellness, this is Health Talk with Fred Lowry from Lowry Drug in Statesville. Visit Fred at his store, conveniently located on Hartness Road in Statesville.
Good afternoon. This is Fred Lowry, pharmacist and doctor of natural medicine, Lowry Drug in Statesville. Welcome to the Black Friday show of the month. This is Health Talk, and we are exploring facets of your health and keeping you up to date and informed. This is not particularly earth-shaking, but it did grab my attention in the news. The USDA is airdropping rabies vaccines in 6 states this month. That was actually written in October, though. Airdropping oral rabies vaccinations in Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, and West Virginia. So apparently they're dropping 410,000 baits, which is something that would attract wild animals, to be distributed in western North Carolina, 410,000. This whole story sounded a little odd to me, and I looked into it. I wondered, well, how many baits per square mile? Strange thing. Maybe that's the way my mind works. But of the western states, there's approximately 54, a little under 54 square miles. That works out to about 22 baits per square mile. Of course, if they're probably not dropping them that way. Just kind of a curious thing to me, really, in that, also in the state of North Carolina, most of the cases are actually reported in more urban counties, Wake County, some in Iredell and Alexander. 2024 said they had 119 positive cases of animals of the, I'm sure, quite a few hundred or thousands of samples sent to the lab, but the animals involved were foxes, bats, skunks, and cats. So I'm not sure how that bat thing works out, and there have been no reported cases of human rabies since, in North Carolina at least, since the year 2000. Also in the news, one of the biggest stories, I think, well, maybe not the biggest to come out this year, but apparently the CDC recently made a statement: there's no evidence to support the claim that vaccines do not cause autism. So after decades of unequivocally saying that vaccines do not cause autism, the Center for Disease Control Wednesday updated its webpage on vaccines, last Wednesday, of course, to say that autism, vaccines and autism, that there is no evidence supporting the claim that vaccines don't cause autism. So while they say that they used to say there's no way, basically, now they're saying that there's no evidence to support that claim. So their claim, and this is a quote, that vaccines do not cause autism is not an evidence-based claim because studies have not ruled out that possibility that infant vaccines do cause autism. Though the cause of autism, they say, is likely to be multifactorial, which I would certainly agree with. They have yet to rule out one potential contributor. They also state that studies supporting a link to autism and vaccine have basically been ignored by health authorities. This is considered one of the biggest public health reversals of our lifetime, and it confirms what parents have been saying for decades. So the Andrew Nixon's communication director of the U.S. Health and Human Services, told the Defender, this comes from the Children's Health Defense, in a statement that says basically this now reflects the gold standard of evidence-based science, which they've been waving in our face for quite some time. If that sounds cynical, it probably is. So they basically have said that they're going to investigate all links. Children's Health Defense CEO Mary Holland says that there was basically never any science behind the claim that vaccines do not cause autism. She calls that tobacco science. So now the CDC is starting to be on the side of truth when it comes to vaccines. Maybe. She does believe that vaccines cause autism and are probably the primary cause of the autism epidemic. And so part of this, of course, happened, the onslaught of all of the increase in vaccines after pharmaceutical manufacturers were relieved of any personal or product liability for those products. So, this is still somewhat confusing. There's people that certainly believe absolutely that vaccines are the way to go, and there's people that are not in that category. So it does make you wonder, how these things happen. And so as we become, quote unquote, educated about medical related things, certainly in universities for all healthcare disciplines, vaccines have been touted as the one miracle of modern science, and so that was some of the initial thoughts about it. I'm not saying that it cannot be a miracle, obviously, but we have issues that are certainly way beyond that at this point in time. And when we start with all of the vaccines and that the children are supposed to get, that's basically a toxic soup of material, and that may sound harsh, but it's really not. If you look at all the things that are in those products, which most people really don't have any idea of, but there's certainly a lot of chemical toxicity there. We're adding that to, or giving that to a vulnerable human being that really doesn't have the mechanisms to deal with all that, and there's going to be fallout from it. So, conversely, the Washington Post reported that the federal government under Kennedy is legitimizing false claims about vaccines and autism after decades of attempting to debunk them. So they're blaming Kennedy for this, and I think he gets a lot of credit for changing this environment. Stay tuned for more Health Talk. Welcome back to Health Talk. This is Fred Lowry, pharmacist and doctor of natural medicine. We're talking about the new CDC change in position about vaccines and autism. So other news media talked about Reuters that said that the CDC adopted Kennedy's anti-vaccine views, which it argues runs counter to decades of science. Does this mean science has become a religion and we can't question it anymore or learn new things? And unfortunately, The real problem is not that information wasn't available, but they failed to look at it and did not want to do anything contrary to that. Former CDC vaccine chief Dmitry, I'm going to butcher this name perhaps, Deskakis, who resigned in August after publicly opposing Kennedy's policy, weighed in saying that this is the weaponization of the voice of the CDC and it's getting worse. Well, what about the CDC's policies that have clearly hurt people? That's they're talking about that the agency is validating Kennedy's false claims. Not sure that's true. And if you talk to parents of vaccine injured children, which I have, they would certainly agree that vaccines was one of the issues related to the change in their child. These are children that were seemingly pretty normal and responding, and then they get a vaccine, and everything changes. So you could go into the issues of what happened around COVID and the CDC's response with that. In September, Fox News had an interview, and it showed that this former CDC vaccine chief obstructed investigation into 25 child deaths, possibly tied to the COVID-19 shots. So the CDC revision of the language corrects misinformation rather than spreading it. So now we have that thing of the people that spread quote unquote misinformation about vaccines and the COVID shot. And this station and myself lost our YouTube broadcast ability during that time because of the things I was saying about that. So part of this issue before the update of the CDC website claimed that in 2012, the National Academy of Medicine did a review. In 2013, the CDC study had debunked any claims of a link between autism and vaccination. So basically, that was a lie. So just so you understand, according to Kennedy, and I've looked into this, the way to debunk this would be to do a study on a single vaccine, comparing it to a healthy group of people, healthy vaccinated people, against unvaccinated, and that way you could know the difference. And one of the other things that happens, most of these studies were just done for a few days, but the other thing, the placebo was not normal saline or sterile water. It was the other components of the shot without the pathogen in them. So that's really not a fair comparison in terms of a quote-unquote study. You may perhaps remember me reporting on the Senate hearing in September with Attorney Aaron Seery that revealed a long-hidden study of 18,000 children in the Henry Ford health system. That they used the databases for them and found that vaccinated children are more likely to develop chronic disease than unvaccinated children. He said the authors who strongly supported vaccination, they were pro-vaccination, withheld the study for various reasons. So keep in mind, we're also, when you're dealing with brain injury and autism and or neurological injury, which could include anything from a minor tremor, a tic, attention deficit. There's there's all kinds of things related to that. We could also include things that happened with the COVID shot, and we have to include the virus as well, and that there seemingly was nerve-related neurological things associated with both, but particularly with the shot that was given, where people lost their sense of taste or smell, or there were all kinds of things related to the transmission of information throughout the body through nerves to the brain, including the vagus nerve. So other scientists who had actually reported evidence of a link between vaccines and autism had been heavily censored, and so there was also the report in 2013, the connection with autism and MMR vaccine. It was alleged that the CDC shredded those records. Keep in mind that in the 1990s, there was autism diagnosis was 1 in 1,000. It was much less even before that. And 2022, the rates are 1 in 31. That's a lot. So the under the Make America Healthy Again Commission, they released a strategic report. There were 128 recommendations to address the U.S. chronic disease epidemic, including the study of the root cause of autism. And they say it's clear that autism is a vastly broad term, and they need to start talking about different forms of brain injury at different levels, which is what I alluded to, is that there's all kinds of levels of this. Last month, a comprehensive review of 300 studies on autism causes identified vaccination as a leading modifiable risk factor, with multiple early childhood vaccines emerging as one of the most significant modified risk factors for the onset of autism. I really like that term, a modifiable risk factor. We talk about a lot of things that you can do with your health or to improve your situation. Certainly, this is a big factor. Generally, when you're talking about giving vaccinations to an infant under 2, this individual, this small person, this small soul, has compromised ability to process things that are put in the body. That's why, we're so careful about, or we used to be so careful about what women that are pregnant were given. But keep in mind, an infant is not neurologically complete. That their nerves are still developing. They can't get up and walk. This whole thing, this whole process is not neurologically complete, which means you don't want to use any substance that is a known toxin to nerve tissue, including mercury and aluminum. And they're also, their immune system is not fully formed. So we're giving them something to stimulate the immune response when it's not completely developed. And that's why, obviously, it's important for women to breastfeed their children, because, they get colostrum and they get a lot of things from breast milk. And the complexity of that even is far beyond what you might even consider. I mean, the foods that the mother eats, the time of the day, all of that changes the breast milk, and the complexity of that is is pretty incredible. So, if you were to be an advocate for vaccination, I think it's probably a good idea to delay vaccinations as long as possible, in that way that you're not being exposed to toxins, and particularly from the shot, and also what's the risk factor depending on your exposure to other people around. Lots of questions about that. And when you start digging into this, it sometimes it's a little overwhelming, but in this day and age, there's a lot of great information about vaccine components and choices that people can make. Stay tuned for more health talk.
Doctor, my eyes have seen the year.
Welcome back to Health
Slow
Talk. This is
parade
Fred Lowry,
of fear.
pharmacist and doctor of natural medicine of Lowry Drug in Statesville. Lowry Drug was established in 1959. We're a traditional family pharmacy with a state-of-the-art compounding laboratory. We offer a full line of medical equipment, supplies including CPAP, scooters, lift chairs, and oxygen. We have a full line of supplements, nutritionals, herbs, essential oils, homeopathics, and more. Come see us. Talking about autism issues and multiple vaccines in children. So one of the things, directions and or misdirections, and it's not invalid, I would say, is that we're talking about the focus on autism arising from a combination of genetic, environmental, and medical factors. But multiple vaccines given in those early years, I think, has the most significant possible modifiable risk factor. This was also a report from the McCullough Foundation. And we talked about the studies. 12 of these studies actually focused on fully vaccinated and completely unvaccinated children. Interestingly enough, they found healthier outcomes from the unvaccinated group. So while most of the studies examine or focused genetics, parental age, immune dysregulation, environmental toxins, prenatal complications, and gut interactions, none could really account for the rapid and swift stepwise rise in autism prevalence since the National Childhood Vaccination Injury Act of 1986. Think about that, the name of that act, National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act, which is when when the childhood vaccination schedule actually exploded. So we've got clustered administration of multiple things, and keep in mind too, your body never encounters all these diseases at one time. It would, if the disease was presented, it would be presented one at a time. It goes through the process. Your body has a very detailed process of how it responds to pathogens. So some of these report studies centered on shared mechanisms, which is certainly not invalid. Immune dysregulation, mitochondrial dysfunction, which is really at the heart of a lot of disease states, neuroinflammation brought on by vaccinations. And vaccinations actually have all of these mechanisms. So when we talk about ingredients in the vaccines, you've got antigens and or live viruses, preservatives, mercury-containing thimerosal, which was recently pretty much outlawed. I'm not sure if it's still in there or not, but for years, medical education, continuing education, always said, or well, I better not say always, but many of the continuing education programs the institutions were putting forth said there is no mercury in vaccinations, which is incredibly wrong, because if you actually look at the package insert of the product, it lists it from the manufacturer. So very disappointing in the institutional education for healthcare providers. Basically lies about the ingredients. Up until perhaps very recently, most of the multi-dose vials of flu shots still had thimerosal, and I think which is a mercury component, and I think that it may be stated that it was part of the manufacturing process. So you've got the mercury, you've got aluminum that is well known to be neurotoxic. So when you get the combined toxic exposures may overwhelm the infant detoxification capacity, the ability of the liver to eliminate toxins, basically creating a metabolic bottleneck that heightens the oxidative stress, immune dysregulation, and also underlines the sudden infant death syndrome. It reminds me many years ago, I think it was the late 80s, early 90s, my company provided infant apnea monitors for the local area. We had at least 300 of those units out back then. We're not doing that anymore and hadn't for many years, but it just seems really odd that whatever was happening during that time, it could have been some liability exposure and issues when all that sudden infant death things were happening more, or at least, I'm not sure if that's still a thing at this point in time. Didn't look into that, but that's a lot of units for a small area such as around Statesville. So just a sidelight there. So we get into basically early infancy is a window of heightened vulnerability to immune activation. These chemicals are preservatives during a time that the nervous system is developing, the immune system's developing. It's really what we're looking at is one of the most enduring falsehoods in modern medicine, the declaration that vaccines do not cause autism, and that was a statement from one of these individuals from this study. By the way, I failed to say this earlier, but a lot of this information has come from the Children's Health Defense and related to vaccine information. That's a good source. There's also a vaccine information center available. So those are all things to look at. So the overwhelming conclusion of the studies of the report is that vaccinated children are more likely to get autism compared with unvaccinated counterparts, regardless of whether one looks at the vaccine schedule, MMRs, vaccine, rubella, aluminum exposure, et cetera. And they claim, they used to claim, well, we're better at diagnosing this. And no, you're not. That claim is just not really credible. The diagnostic criteria has been relatively stable since 2013. I hate that line of logic there. So basically, maybe things are changing for the positive. I certainly think they are, and I think I am a proponent of Kennedy and his work to make change in this environment. I think it's a positive thing. Stay tuned for more Health Talk.
Doctor, my eyes have seen the years and the slow parade of fear.
Welcome back to Health Talk. This is Fred Lowry. So we talked a little bit about the vaccination thing, but one of the other topics is common chemicals out there linked to hyperactivity in preschoolers. And, while I think the attention deficit, particularly in males, including myself, has been an issue over the ages, but certainly we have a lot more of that. And the question would be why? Study published in Environmental International evaluates residues of individual and mixes of endocrine disrupting chemicals, including pesticides, and finds an association between that exposure and hyperactive behavior in children. Endocrine meaning hormonal disruptors, basically. The researchers evaluated urine samples from over 800 preschoolers, identifying and statistically analyzing concentrations of 22 endocrine disrupting chemicals, and found that 9 of these chemicals significantly was associated with hyperactivity trajectories, and there was a positive association between that and hyperactivity. Noting the strongest association with girls. Now, that's a little misleading, but the current study basically indicates that adverse health effects of the exposure to these chemicals among preschoolers suggest gender-specific effects, highlights the importance on focusing on the chemicals and the exposure in early childhood. ADHD is a common neurodevelopmental disorder in children, and so is certainly impactful for those children involved. And obviously, there are things that are primary drug use to treat that as some type of amphetamine, which is kind of a curiosity in that someone's overstimulated, so you give them a stimulant to likes cures likes there. The authors also continue that the core symptoms are high level of inattention or hyperactivity during the preschool period. The analysis showed that overall the prevalence of this ADHD in of children in China over the past years had been increasing. The CDC data suggested that from 2022 in the U.S., there are estimated 11.4% of children ages 3 to 17 that have been diagnosed with attention deficit. An organization beyond pesticides have reported that children are susceptible and vulnerable to exposure to harmful contaminants, including these endocrine disruptors and pesticides. Children face a much higher hazard than adults, basically due to their size and developing organ systems. It's shared with the Children and Pesticides Don't Mix fact sheet, something to look up. Children and pesticides don't mix. Studies show that children developing organs create an early window or greater vulnerability for exposure to these chemicals. Of course, these chemicals are basically ubiquitous in our environment, and we encounter them every day. These endocrine disruptors function by mimicking the action of naturally produced hormones, including estrogen, testosterone, perhaps progesterone. They're blocking hormone receptors in the cell. So think about where your normal hormones interact on receptors. When these chemicals get in there, they block the message system from those normal hormones in your body. So basically, they're competing and preventing the proper action of these normal hormones. Keep in mind that these chemicals basically create a different message of communication. So they're affecting the synthesis, the transportation, and the metabolism, and the excretion of all these hormones, and alter the concentrations of normal hormones in the body. Endocrine disruptors have been linked to attention deficit, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's disease, metabolic disorders, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, obesity, early puberty, infertility, all kinds of things. The Endocrine Society says there's more than 85,000 man-made chemicals in the world, and we've only studied about 1% of them. So, we do know that pesticides act as endocrine disruptors. As the current study shares, they are a group of chemicals that are widely used in industrial production, building materials, cosmetics, pesticides, insecticides. And so by altering the production, release, transport, metabolism, and bonding of normal hormones, they increase disease with humans. So, these things are pretty much everywhere, and it doesn't mean that you throw your hands up and go, well, I can't do anything about it. Well, you can in terms of some of the choices, So, I think it's really important to pay attention to these things. So generally, we see that boys are generally at the higher risk of hyperactivity compared with girls. However, the effect of the chemical seems to be more pronounced in girls. This is the thing that's confusing, because boys are certainly impacted by this, probably are expressed more in the general population. So it may be related to genes on the Y chromosome of those related with boys and their dopamine function, the association with increased risk and hyperactivity. Moreover, increased testosterone in boys may actually enhance this dopamine system, contributing to a heightened impulse activity and behaviors. So, but keep in mind, the hormone disruption part, I think, has more significant impact on females. So, particularly in that the endocrine disrupting chemicals can mimic estrogen and bind to those receptors and then interfere with that relationship of information between receptors in the brain. And so, that is a possibility. And then you could get into all the hormone dysregulation of young women, impact the increase in infertility related to these, and you throw in some of the other medical interventions, including the COVID shot, which had some implications there, and there is an uptick in young women in fertility issues post COVID shot. But basically, these chemicals interfere with hormone regulation. So while the attention deficit thing may be expressed more in boys, hormone dysregulation in girls certainly becomes an issue. There's additional scientific literature currently showing exposure to these endocrine disruptors compounds is a dose-related response. There was a relationship between 27 endocrine disruptors in breast milk and attention deficit in children finds that the concentration of these fluorinated type chemicals in breast milk is a positive correlation with the risk of attention deficit. Also shows that early exposure of these may increase the risk of attention deficit in children, but it seems to these chemicals seem to impact girls greater than the male counterparts. There was a study about the relationship between urinary endocrine disrupting chemicals and hyperactivities, showing that folate exposure is associated with impulsivity in children. Also, maternal exposure to organophosphates, Roundup, during pregnancy and childhood may disrupt the development of neurons, synapse formation, the myelin sheath over the nerves, impacting development and resulting in long-term cognition and behavioral deficit. There was a urinary analysis of bisphenol exposure of 619 children, showed that there was a positive correlation with hyperactivity with that. It just goes on and on and on. So basically, these early chemical burdens are toxic to children and toxic to adults. There are things that can be done about some of this. Part of it, of course, is minimizing exposure as much as possible. That's certainly a great strategy. There are things that are helpful in lowering overall toxic load, which could include things like activated charcoal or zeolite that we've talked about in the past as binding up toxins. Certainly making sure your water is taken care of. Going back to that glycophosphate thing, we find that in a lot of foods now, wheat, potatoes, oats. Definitely a problem. Hope you all had a great Thanksgiving and a great weekend. Enjoy the beautiful weather that we're having, and tune in next week for Health Talk. This is Fred Lowry.